Looks like another interesting year. A few of the planets good at different times, so there'll always be at least one good planet accessible. Could have some good comets later in the year. There's one of the periodic comets, should be fairly bright, possibly naked eye later in the year. Yeah, what meteors, swings and roundabouts. Some will be good, some not so. Just depends on the moon phase largely for that. This time of year, January, generally the sky-wise, probably the feature of the evening is Orion. That's what most people will be familiar with. Orion's quite dominant in the northern sky in the evening hours. Southern Cross is still quite low. In fact, you won't see it straight after sunset, but later part of the evening you'll see the Southern Cross is starting to rise a bit higher in the southeast. Good time for the Milky Way. We see what we call the Orion arm of the galaxy. It's more the outer part of the galaxy, but still quite a nice sight. Where to look for Orion depends on the time of night. If you're talking an early evening, it'll be still in the eastern part of the sky, but it sweeps across the northern sky during the middle of the night, and then before dawn that'll be actually moving over to the western part of the sky. So timing is crucial with these things. A good thing to have is a planisphere, or what some people call a star wheel. That really is handy because it'll allow you to actually get a proper time and time of year and time of day sort of idea sorted out. Make it a lot easier for you to actually see what's in the sky. Now with your planets, they move against the star pattern, but as I've said probably before, you really need to look for a star-like object which doesn't twinkle. Some of the planets have a distinctive colour. Mars, for example, has a very orangey red colour, very distinctive, whereas Jupiter's pretty much white or off-white. Saturn may be a little bit more creamy ivory coloured. The other planets generally are they're fainter and that, so you don't see a lot of colour generally, unless you have a telescope. So you're basically early. We're looking in summer months. We are in now. Jupiter is in the west of an early evening, but it's disappearing pretty quickly. In fact, by the middle of February, it'll be pretty much gone. So Jupiter disappears, leaves the stage. Mars very much becomes centre stage. A bright orange-red coloured star rises in the northeast fairly early in the evening, about 9 PM at the start of January, but by the end of the month it'll be pretty much rising at sunset, so it'll be around 7 o'clock. And in fact the end of the month is when what we call the opposition, so that we're actually going past Mars in its orbit. It's the best time to look at it. So Mars will be quite prominent in the, as I said, for most of the night, for the summer period at least. Saturn is later in the evening, sort of toward midnight. You'll be able to see Saturn. That's down. It's moving further south actually, which is good. That means it's getting higher, rising quite late. Better seen in the morning hours in summer, but as we get toward the autumn, it'll become much more prominent, better placed. Mercury is pretty elusive as usual. You might spot it during January low in the eastern morning sky. Venus is actually out of sight. Won't be able to see Venus until at least March. So for those Venus files, you'll need to wait a little bit to see Venus, but she will make her appearance. Like being the diva she is, she'll take a while. But yeah, we should have a few good meteor showers firing up later in the year. January, February is actually quite a quiet time for meteors. We don't have a lot of meteor showers active this time of year. Comets, a bit quiet at the moment on the comet scene. There is a comet expected later in the year, a periodic comet, a regular comet called Comet Hartley. It was actually discovered by an Australian back in, I think it was early 80s, something like that. This will be quite a good appearance. It comes fairly close to the Earth in October, and I'll certainly talk more about that when we get a bit closer. Could be quite good here. It will favour the more northerly parts of Australia, because it does go quite far north. But that could be a naked eye object. We haven't had a naked eye comet for a little while, so that'll be good. Looks like another good year ahead, also for the Astronomy Club. I mean, last year was the International Year of Astronomy, but this year also the club has got some public events planned. I plan to hopefully be there at some of them, and I'd love to have a chat and maybe answer some more of your questions about the universe.